What's up everyone? Welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to teach you on how to calculate your macronutrients, as known as macros. In order to get started, you need to know what your calories are. If you don't, link down below. I created a video last week on how to calculate your calories. Once you do that, come back to this video and we can get started. So, before we go further, you have to know what macronutrients are. Your proteins, your carbs, your fats, and your alcohol. However, not many people use alcohol as a macronutrient because you can just count it as fats or carbs instead. But today we're going to be talking about these three macros. The proteins, the fats, and the carbohydrates. Now what you need to keep in mind is that 1 gram of protein is 4 calories. 1 gram of fat is 9 calories and 1 gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories. So let's say you buy 4 ounces of cooked chicken. 4 ounces chicken, which is approximately 36 grams of protein and 4 grams of fat. In order to calculate how much calories this chicken has, we have to do 36 times 4, which equals 144 calories. And then for the fats, we have to multiply 4 grams of fat times 9, which equals 36 calories. And then we add the two up and it equals 180 calories. So when you go to a store and you take something and you're going to see the nutrition facts on the back of it, those are going to be your calories, carbs, fats, proteins, fiber. If you add your macronutrients, your protein, fats, and carbs, it equals to that amount of calories. So what we just did is we took a 4-ounce cooked chicken and we took the approximate amount of protein that a cooked chicken has, approximate amount of fat that chicken has, and we multiplied the protein times 4 and the fat times 9. And we added the two up and the total amount of calories equals to 180 calories. So what you need to know is calories come from macronutrients. Depending on what goal you have, whether you want to lose weight or gain weight, you need to set your macronutrients appropriate for your goals. So let's start with if you're trying to lose weight. Let's say you already have the calories, and I'm going to use 2,500 calories as an example of how to calculate your macronutrients. Now, if we're trying to lose weight, our calories are going to be in a deficit, and we need to make sure that we're maximizing muscle growth. It is suggested that you take 1.1 to 1.4 grams of protein per body weight. So as an example, I'm going to say you're 160 pounds. You might be asking, what should I lean for? Into the 1.1 grams of protein or more towards the 1.4 grams of protein? Now that comes down to what you prefer. If you want to eat more protein, you can go ahead and lean more towards the 1.4 grams. I would suggest that you lean more towards 1.3, 1.4 grams of protein only because many people underestimate the amount of protein that they eat. Especially if you're a beginner and you're just getting into macros, I would go more for the 1.3 to 1.4 grams of protein just to be on the safe side. So what we're going to do is we're going to multiply 160 times 1.3, which is going to be 208 grams of protein. Now that we calculated 208 grams of protein, we need to calculate how many calories that's going to be. So what we're going to do is 208 times 4. Which is 832 calories. Now that we know how many calories are coming out of our protein, we're going to take our calories, which are 2,500, and we're going to subtract 832 calories, which is going to equal to 1,668 calories left. So now that we know we have 1,668 calories left, it is suggested that you take 25 to 35% of fat from your calories. A lot of people get scared when they eat fats. You get fat by having a surplus of calories, not because you're eating fats. Fats are actually good for your hormone levels, and I highly recommend that you eat fats in order for you to stay healthy and have a good hormone balance. When you're cutting, I would recommend you go more for the 25% of fat. Is because when you're training, you need to make sure that you're maximizing muscle growth, which means that you're getting in proper protein, the right amount of fats, and the right amount of carbs. So, to get further, 25% of fat for a person that's cutting. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1,668, which is the calories we have left, and we're going to multiply by 25%, which is going to equal to 417 calories. If you're a person that prefers to go for more fats, you can go and pick the 35% of fat. It might actually be better for you because everybody's different and everybody's body can react differently. So maybe for you, the 35% of fat would actually be better performance in the gym. So whatever fat that you decide on picking, just make sure that you're going to stick to it. Stay consistent. Don't switch it up week to week. Make sure that you're hitting your numbers. Now that we know that 417 calories, it's what's coming from the fat, we need to find out how much is that going to be in grams. So what we're going to do is 417 divided by 9, because 1 gram of fat is 9 calories, which is going to equal to 46.3. And you can just round it to the nearest whole, which is going to be 46 grams. Now that you know you have 46 grams of fat, now we know what our proteins and fats are going to be. Let me write it down here. We're going to have 208 grams of protein and 46 grams of fat. The last thing that we need to know is our carbs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take the remaining amount of calories we had left from protein, which was 1,668. And we're going to subtract it from 417 calories, which is the calories we had left from fat. So we're going to have 1,668 minus 417, which is going to equal to 1,251 calories. And we're going to take 1,251 and we're going to divide it by 4, because we have 4 calories and 1 gram of carb, and it's going to equal to 312.75. We're going to round that to the nearest whole, which is 313 grams of carbs. And that is how you calculate your macros. So if you're watching this video, you're most likely a person who's just going to be starting out on tracking your macronutrients. My advice is don't stress over it. If you're going to be tracking macros, and let's say you have 208 grams of protein, 46 grams of fat, and 313 grams of carbs, if one day you get a little more grams of protein, like let's say 5 grams of protein more or less, it is totally fine. If you get a little more grams of fat, like 4 grams of fat more than usual, it is okay. Don't stress over it, especially if you're a beginner. You're going to be making a lot of mistakes along the way. It's trial and error at the end of the day. As long as you stay consistent, you're doing the right thing. Another thing I wanted to mention is protein is important for you to maximize muscle growth. Fats have a big effect on your hormones, so it's a big macronutrient as well. Make sure you're going to get at least 40 grams of fat if you're cutting. Any more than that, I don't recommend it unless you're planning to compete or you have a professional coach that is telling you that it is okay to do so. Now, last but not least, your carbs. You have to make sure that you're getting in a good amount of carbs because that's going to be your energy at the gym. At times, you might have a low amount of carbs, like let's say 50 grams of carbs or 100 grams of carbs. As long as you're getting a good amount of protein, 1.1 to 1.4 grams per pound of body weight, about 25% of the calories from fats, and the rest from carbs. If you're trying to gain weight, it's going to be slightly different than when you're trying to lose weight. It is suggested that you take 0.8 to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight and about 25 to 40% of fat. So we're going to do the same process as we did before. So you might be thinking, should I be going more towards the 0.8 or the 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight? I recommend that you guys stick to 1 gram of protein per pound of body weight, only because a lot of people, once again, underestimate the amount of protein that they get in. So it is better to go for 1. You can even go higher, up to like 1.1, 1.2 grams of protein. It all comes down to preference. What we're going to do is we're going to take the 160 pounds that we used when we were trying to lose weight. We're going to use it for gaining weight. So we're going to do 160 multiply by 1 gram of protein, which is going to be 160 grams of protein. And we're going to do the same thing. We're going to multiply 160 times 4 because we have 4 calories and 1 gram of protein. So it's going to be 160 times 4, which is going to be 640 calories. Now we're going to subtract 2,500 calories from 640, which is going to equal to 1,860 calories. So we have 1,860 calories to use for fats and carbs. So when you're lean gaining, you could actually go for a higher amount of fat, like 35 to 40% of fat. If you're eating mostly foods that are fat, like almonds, cashews, or you're having a burger, so I would go more for the 35% of fat. If you're a person who eats more carbs, like bananas and rice, then you could go more for the around 30% of fat. So let's say 30%. We're going to take 1,860 times 30%, which is going to equal to 558 calories. We're going to take 558 and divide it by 9 calories because 1 gram of fat is 9 calories. And it's going to equal to 62 grams of fat. But now we know we have 160 grams of protein, so I'm going to go ahead and write it here. We know that we have 62 grams of fat. Now all we have to do is calculate our carbs. So what we're going to do is we're going to take 1,860, which was the number of calories we had left after the protein, and we're going to subtract 558 because we just used that for fats. So we're going to do 1,860 minus 558, which is going to equal 1,302 calories left for carbs. So now all we have to do is find out how many carbs. So 1,302 is the remaining amount of calories we have left to use, and we're going to divide that by 4 because 1 gram of carbohydrate is 4 calories, and it's going to equal to 325.5, and we're going to round that to the nearest whole, which is going to equal to 326 grams of carbs. On my previous video on how to calculate your calories, I mentioned that it's a good idea to go and look for a calculator online to estimate the amount of calories. But for macronutrients, I actually don't recommend you go and use a calculator because it's going to be a generic number. The best thing to do is actually count your macronutrients manually without a calculator. This way you're able to have a good ratio of macros set for your goal. So that is how you calculate your macronutrients. Also, I wanted to mention fiber because it's very important as well. It is recommended to get approximately 10 grams to 15 grams of fiber per 1,000 calories. So if you're eating approximately 3,000 calories, it's good to get in about 30 to 45 grams of fiber a day. It is important for your digestive system and overall health, as well as everything else. That is how you calculate your macronutrients. I also want to make a video for you guys on how to count your macros because a lot of people are confused about that. And if you guys have any questions, please comment below. I'd be happy to help you out. If you guys like this video, thumbs up. I appreciate it. If you guys aren't subscribed, please do so. And I'll see you guys in the next video.